Welcome back to William Steele True Crime and Steele the Spotlight Television. Now you know we have a public relations firm, so if you need PR representation, you can contact me. I have my occasional co-host, my Saturday night co-host, back with us, and Matt Cox. Now, what we have Ignacio Esteban, retired ATF agent, wrote, I don't know, 70 odd books and
Yeah,
ATF
man.
undercover, and he's a phenomenal guest. And we have Matt Cox, Inside True Crime. He served time in federal prison. He was on the Secret Service. I think he had a Interpol red notice and the Secret Service most wanted. And now I think he became a janitor with the Bureau of Prisons or something like that for quite a few years.
Oh, nice.
So Matt, welcome back. Now he's a true crime guy doing these podcasts, doing these shows,
Oh, yeah.
turned his life around. He's offering tips, true crime prevention. And so, we try to put these shows out as news material and informational and appeal to a broad audience, because ultimately I think all three of us are in agreement that we want to, share the message that some of the choices that guys like myself and Matt made are not the right ones. And, we screwed our lives up pretty good. And we want to share our experiences to help kids and help people to not make the same mistakes we did and educate the public on how better to protect themselves.
Yeah,
so, Matt, welcome to the show. Ignacio.
Yeah, brother. Matt. I think we've all done a lot of shows, Matt. I think I've done 4 shows on yours. You've done here with us and one with Bill. So we all take turns. And if you haven't seen them, go check them out. We've done a lot of good shows, a lot of great content here. So I got a few questions for you guys. I know you guys are always asking me the questions. So it feels nice to kind of reverse this here a little bit and get a little psyche about what really, because I've been in these prisons, right? I've done a lot of interviews. I go in these facilities and I see from the outside. I even did some training at Coleman. I know you did some you did some time, serious time in Coleman too. And I even had a chance to do training where I even had a chance to interview inmates, which I found it fascinating. This is early in my career, though. This is over 20 years ago. I think before you were there. This is like 2002. You weren't there in 2002, right?
No, 2000, early 2008, I showed up.
2008. Did you guys have that program still going on where federal agents were there training and you guys would be interviewed by agents and stuff for human behavior analysis? It's to develop your interview. It was actually really good because they give you a role. It was like at the academy and it was fascinating. I don't know. Were you part of that at all, Matt, or no?
No.
Being interviewed by agents and stuff?
What was the incentive?
I was interviewed by agents, but not for a part
no,
of the
no,
program.
in a training center.
What was the incentive for the inmates to participate in that? Because I'm kind of old school, and like in New York, if an inmate was seen to be participating, you guys building up profiles and learning how to interrogate, they'd have to check into protective custody.
No,
what was the incentive?
Coleman was low risk.
To
me, I felt like the low risk part felt like a university. People just walking around, relaxed. It's not like that. It was very different. Now I know you also did middle, right? Middle, and then high. Maybe it's a little different, but the low risk seemed very casual. We were walking around there, so we were walking around, and then we would go to the classrooms and everything else. So I really didn't see it like that. But that was 2002. Things could have changed also a lot there. But I was going to ask you guys questions. So I see it one way there, and of course you do the cases with these hardened gang members. You see how hardened things are, the culture of gang life there. How does one survive, and how do you make assessment? Especially you're looking at 10, 15 years, both of you did significant time. How do you survive a long haul like that, knowing how violent and the culture that exists there? And what do you do to survive? Either one, Matt.
I mean, I went to the medium, but I wasn't, like if you went to like a pen, or like, let's say you went to a California pen in the California state, or even the state of Florida or something in the pen, or even the federal pen at Coleman, right? They've got two. They've got Pin 1 and Pin 2. So if you went to a penitentiary or something, you would be required to practically join a gang. Like, you basically almost have to kind of join a gang because you need numbers to protect yourself. But I went to a medium. So, I went to the medium, and although guys will kind of try and click up, they have different, what they call cars. Like you're kind of with the Florida car or you're with the Georgia car, that kind of thing, where you kind of group together. Like, I got there and almost immediately I'm teaching the GED class and I'm teaching ACE courses. So ACE courses are adult continuing education courses. Now they get funds for that, but the teachers don't want to teach them, right? So the teachers, the correctional officers they don't want to teach those classes. So they have inmates teach them. So you had me, a guy who's in here for bank fraud and real estate fraud, essentially. You have me teaching the real estate class. So I'm teaching the real estate class. I put together the curriculum. I did the whole thing. I'm teaching that class, and I'm teaching GED class. So when the doors open in the morning, I go to the library, and I'm in the library until 8 or 9 o'clock that night. And then I get out during my free time, I go to the library and I'm writing. Like or I'm walking the track. Like for 3 years, I had almost no interaction with anybody. So I was like a non-combatant in a war zone. Like, these guys are stabbing each other. These guys are fighting. These guys have a problem.
And you're teaching classes. And you're teaching classes.
And keep in mind that nobody bothers me because they're like, yeah, that's the real estate guy. And everybody wants to take the real estate class because they all think they're going to get out and start flipping houses.
Yeah, make some money.
Bothers me.
No, But you did. Okay, let me ask you this: what kind of violence did you see? Because you mentioned there were fights and stabbings. What kind of violence did you see at the medium facility?
Yeah, there are guys hitting each other in the head with locks. And you know what they'll do is, it doesn't sound like it's a big deal, but until you actually see the device, right? Like they take a belt and they wrap it around their arm, and then they wrap the loops through the lock. And now it's not that far. It's about so the lock is here, and you've got this, it's hooked on the belt. It doesn't look like much. You swing that and hit somebody in the head, you're leaving dents in their skull.
They'll fracture their skull.
Right. So they just run up and they whack, 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 and you can hit them that fast, and they're just gushing. Mess. It's horrible. So so you would see things like that, but that has nothing to do with me. Like suddenly the guard they hit the deuces, they hit the little button on their radio, they all come running. I just walk, they say, go back, lock down. I just walk back to my unit. I walk in my cell. They close the door. They lock it. They go around and count everybody. They ask a few people questions. Did you see anything? No, not really. I saw a bunch of guys screaming and hollering. I saw some guys. Do you know any of those guys? I don't know any of those guys. And of course, I'm a clean cut white guy that teaches real estate in a prison. Like, they know I didn't see anything. Who was involved? I don't know.
And even if you did, you didn't see anything. And my vision is not so good. My hearing is not good, and my vision is not so good. I can't hear too good. I don't see too good.
They've seen my jacket, I'll tell you. And I don't always say that. They'd go, they say, did you see anything? I say, come on, bro, you've seen my jacket. I tell you. Like, I'm like,
you're funny, man.
I'm not a soldier, okay? And I tell them I'm not a soldier, and they just start laughing. Like, the cops. Listen, every cop in the medium was like, "What are you fucking doing here?" I'm sorry, excuse me. So they'd all say, "What are you doing here?" All of them would be like, "Cox, how'd you get yourself in this position?" I was like, "I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking." They're like, "You got like 26 years. What are you doing?" I'm like, "I don't know." So, wow. So they would, the cops didn't bother me. The inmates didn't bother me. And then I went to the low, which was the inmates were even softer.
Even so, well, that's what I saw that they're very soft because we would walk around and everything else. But you did tell me one story, and I want you to tell it again because it's pretty good. Even in the low, someone's trying to shake you down to pay money to pay for their goods and services, right? And you're like, "Yeah, give me information, right?" What happened there?
Yeah. I had been locked up maybe at the low. So I was in the medium for 3 years, and then I get to the low security prison, and I'm there maybe not even a month. I've been there a few weeks. I'm sitting in my cell. And this black guy who had to be 6'4", 6'6", comes walking to my cell, walks up, and I'm sitting in a chair, like writing. And I look up, and he's sitting there, and he goes, "Yo, man," he goes, "This is how this is going to go." And I went, like, that's not a good sign. Like, I've never heard a conversation start that
way.
No. Keep in mind, my cellie is a pretty big guy, and he's laying in his bed, and he looks up. He's reading a book, and he kind of looks up, and the guy goes, "You're gonna give me," and it was something ridiculous. It was like $50 a month in commissary or $100 a month in commissary. And nobody's gonna bother you. And I went, "Oh, okay." And he went, you could tell like he thought I was gonna put up an argument or something. And he was like, "Man, so you understand what I'm saying?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Do you have a list?" And he was just like, "Man, I ain't messing around, And I went, "No, I understand." I said, "But I mean, what am I going to buy you? You're saying $50 a month. Like, what am I buying you? Like, you want all sodas? Like, what do you want? Give me a list. And he goes, man, I want $50 in commissary. I said, bro, I said, that's not, I can't get you a gift card. Like, it's $50 in commissary. What is the commissary you want? He goes, you think I'm playing? And I go, no, I don't think you're playing. I think you're serious. I want to know, what do you want? Can you write me a list? And he kind of like, yeah. And I said, great. I said, do me a favor, put your name and your cell number, because I don't know what cell you're in. I don't know your name. So I can, so I have it. He's like, all right. I said, yeah. I said, that way when I go to the counselor, and I give him the list and I show him all the commissary I bought you. I said, I tell him, hey, I'm supposed to deliver this to this guy every month so nobody bothers me here. Do you want to go with me to drop it off? And he goes, and the guy goes, oh, that's how it is? I said, yeah, that's how it is. I said, bro, I'm at a place where half the guys here snitched on somebody. I said, I just survived 3 years at the medium. Do you think I came to the low to get shook down by you? I said, get out of here. I said, so you go ahead and write up your list. He goes, oh, you going to snitch me out? I said, of course I'm going to snitch you out. I said, half the inmates here are sex offenders. I said, I said, they're not shaking anybody. I said, the other half, I said, 95% of the remaining inmates are snitches. They all cooperated. I said, so here's the way that I said, now, if you can take, there's 180 guys in this unit, 90 are sex offenders. The other 90, out of those 90, I said, there's like 4 guys that didn't cooperate. And I could tell you who those guys are, because those are the only guys in the unit that went to trial. I said, did you go to trial? Come on, man. I said, I'm not giving you nothing. I said, I don't. And he goes, oh, that's how it's going to be. He goes, yeah. All right, that's going to be an issue. I said, oh, then it's going to be an issue. And he walked off.
What happened?
What happened is he never fucking bothered. I'm sorry. He never bothered me again. He never bothered me again. And the next time he and I had an interaction was probably a month or 2 later.
Hey man, can I get into your real estate class? I
No.
can hear it now.
No. He wasn't worried about it. Listen, what I found out later was that he actually was kind of locked to Coleman because he was actively he had gotten like a life sentence. And he worked it down to like, he was down to like 15 or 10 or 15 years. He'd been testifying against people. Like, you're cooperating. Everybody knows you're cooperating, but he was such a big guy. Nobody's going to bother him. Nobody even talked crap about him because he's such a big guy. Yeah. And so when my cellie left, my cellie was on the bottom bunk. He moved. He went to the drug program. And I'm supposed to move down to his. And the counselor had told me he'd move me down. Well, there's one counselor for 2 units, and each unit has about 180 guys in it. So what happens is just before my cellie moves, a Puerto Rican guy goes and puts in his paperwork to go into my cell.
Oh, well.
In that bunk. And he's got a cane, so he has to be on a bottom bunk.
Oh, he has a medical. But let me ask you, why do you guys want a bottom, not top bunk?
Because the bottom bunks, you don't have to climb up on the, it's just easier.
Especially if you're a paperwork person, it's a real pain to be up on top. It's like, I didn't want to be
but
on top
isn't
either.
everybody also the bottom? Isn't like people getting sick and passing gas and you're just getting all that stuff on you and all that too? If you're in the bottom,
None of that. Nobody's doing anything disgusting. Like guys are not that disgusting in there. They're trying to be respectful. They wash their hands. You're not walking around
really
gas on guys. Guys will knock your ass out for that. You know what I'm saying? You walk, boom.
Exactly.
Like
that's what you think of. You guys sleeping at night and they're just passing all the.
Well, I don't. That's not something I ever had an issue with. So, but what I'm saying is, so you want to be on the bottom bunk. So this guy took the bottom bunk, and when I found out about it, he's moving in now. Keep in mind, he's now moving in. I was like, I was furious because he never asked me. We never had that discussion. You don't just move in some guys, but it's a low. And so there's, not a lot of fights. Guys aren't going to put up a fight. He's not worried about me putting up a fight. And so I'm really irritated. So what I do is I go in and I start complaining. I walk into the cracker box, which is the white TV room. I walk in, I'm like, this mother, I start, I'm pissed off. So he says, one of the guys in there says, hey bro, I'm leaving in a couple weeks. My cellie is a sex offender. Maybe if you just wait, you can come in my cell and then you can. I went, no. And then he said, well, what about this? What if we have you transfer to my cell now and move my cellie into your cell? He's already on the top bunk.
I know the Spanish guy loved that plan.
And I was like, I don't know what he doing. He goes, let's go ask him. So we go in his cell. We say, look, we need you to sign this piece of paper transferring to this other cell. We'll move your stuff and everything. He's like, no, I like it where I'm at. And we're like, look, bro, like, I really need you to do this. And so I remember the one guy was like a biker guy. And he goes, hey, man, you know, nobody really bothers you because I'm kind of helping you out. And he's like, right. He said, I can tell you right now. He said, if you don't do this, you're going to have a problem. I go, whoa. I said, I don't know anything about that. I said, I don't know what he's saying. I said, that's not what I'm saying. I remember they called this guy Creature. And I go, listen, Creature. I said, how about this? I'll buy you $30 worth of commissary if you'll just do this.
Oh, there you go.
And he goes, I said, and I'll pay you. I'm not like these other guys. I'm not going to stiff you. You can trust me. I'll pay you. Ask around. I pay my debts. And he goes, okay. So we move. So when my new cellie is asleep, we go in and we swap mattresses.
Oh, wow.
We pick up the locker with the dolly. And when we go put his, then we go and we take Creature's dolly and I walk in, put it up, bam, slam it, pull the thing out. And I said, he wakes up, he's, whoa, what's going on? The Puerto Rican guy wakes up and goes, what's going on? I said, bro, you just got a new cellie. Good luck with it. I turn around and I leave. So I leave. All of the Puerto Ricans come running up because they've seen this, what's happening. They run up to the front of his cell, and he's like, what's going on? What's happening? Whoa. He barely speaks English. And you hear them all kind of like jabbering in Spanish. And all of a sudden, all you hear is the guy go, the Chomo. And they all just die laughing. They all start screaming, laughing. Right. So I moved in the other guy's cell, in the biker cell, right? And the biker leaves like 2 weeks later. I moved out. But what's so funny is after I did that with Creature, a couple days later, remember the guy that's like 6'6", the black guy? Mm-hmm. I'm walking down the hallway, and he stops. He goes, hey, Cox. And I go, and I'm thinking, oh God, this guy. And I'm like, yeah, what's up? He goes, that thing you did with Creature? And I go, yeah. He goes, veteran move, bro. Veteran move. And he fist bumps me. And I go, yeah, you like that, didn't you? He said, you're all right, bro. And we walked off. That was it.
Yeah, you didn't owe the guy. Got some respect there. You didn't owe the guy anything because he jacked you out of your low bunk, so you stuck him with whoever.
Yeah. Apparently, if that's how you're doing it, you don't tell anybody you're moving in. That's it. And listen, I bought. So here's what bothers me. Here's the part that gets weird.
Where did you buy that guy, anyways?
I was gonna say, here's what gets weird.
Oh,
Creature had me buy him it was like some soda, some potato chips, and like 3 packs of underwear. So Creature would walk by me and kind of look up at me and, kind of nod to me and walk off. And I used to always think that he's looking at me thinking, I'm wearing your underwear. Which is weird. That's weird thing. And I used to think he's wearing underwear I bought him right now. That's creepy.
Yeah, you normally don't have men buy your underwear. That's
but
especially in prison.
Yeah, especially in prison. That's a good one there, Matt. That's an interesting feature.
They weren't thongs or anything. They were boxer briefs. They weren't thongs. It's not like it was really sexy underwear. It was just whatever.
Yeah,
it was weird.
It's still weird. Very weird. Bill, how about you? I know you have some strange stories in prison too, and you told me a few when you were in maximum security, so you've seen some nasty encounters, shots being fired and pellet rounds and all that. What did you see, Bill?
I was beyond maximum. After a while, I screwed up my low custody because I escaped, and I ended up in a super max in Florida, a place called Santa Rosa. I was there for a few years, and then they shipped me as an escape risk up to Virginia, and I ended up in Wallens Ridge. HBO made a show about how dangerous Wallens Ridge Supermax is. I was in solitary confinement for almost 4 years. Occasional cellmate. You're barely allowed out of your cell. I'm like, I was minimum custody, and I ended up with all this extra time, 4 years in Supermax. When I got to Virginia, they misclassified me because they can only use an escape against you 5 years previously, and mine was already after that before they score your custody points. I was always a law clerk, so I'm grieving it right away. I got familiar with the policies. They basically didn't care. They just left me there. So Florida, when I went to the Supermax, same thing. I have, every pass imaginable, right? I'm usually a law clerk or I'm a library clerk, doing something clerical, right? Shipping and receiving clerk outside the gate. And when I lost my custody, and I went to Supermax, the first guy they move in with, big black dude, he's on the low bunk when I move in, and you can't just complain, hey, get down, without having a problem in that situation. It's state prison. These guys, a lot of them not that educated, and it's can be very dangerous. So what I did is, you got the black box. I'm in the Supermax. They're bringing me to the cell. About 4 officers escorting me. They don't even take the stuff off until you're inside the cell. That you have to kneel down. They take the leg irons off, and then you have to put the black box through the hole where they pass the food, so they can take the black box off, turn around, they undo the chain and this and that. So you're not even fully released until that door's locked behind you. I stopped in the doorway when I seen this guy in the low bunk, and I said, yo, CO, I think they're putting me in the wrong cell. I have a low bunk pass permanent. Because it's a way of getting it done without directly saying, get out of my bed and having a problem.
Sure. Competition.
So the officers were like, hey, you're supposed to be down there. No. Well, he's got a pass. And they told him to get up top. And he says, basically after the doors closed, hey, this ain't going to work, because I'm comfortable down here and I run a lot of things around here. He says, one of us has to get a cell change. I said, I'll work with you on that. No problem. But usually once they realize I'm a law clerk, then they want me around. I generally don't have, when you make yourself valuable in prison, I learned this from a guy who had a lot of time when I did time in New York. He was a law clerk and he was getting a lot of guys out of prison. He said, look, it's real dangerous here. I was in a place called Comstock, maximum security prison. And at that time in the 80s, it was one of the most dangerous prisons in the United States. A lot of people getting killed there. He said, click up with people from your neighborhood. Everybody seems to know who you are. Stay with them. Don't associate with this group or that group, not even for anything. But if you want to make yourself useful and never be messed with, you have some college in your background. I'll teach you the law. Stick with, and he did. And it stuck with me all these years. So I was always a law clerk. So we go into the cell with this guy. He's now a little irritated that he's on top. When they open the cell door, now this is a Supermax, brand new, ultra high security in the Florida Panhandle. When they open the door, there's this billowing weed smoke coming out of the cell, right? Because the whole unit's locked down. He didn't expect to get a cellmate. He probably just finished smoking a joint, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, great. Because if you get a dirty urine, they can keep you in Supermax longer. And I don't smoke. And I didn't want to get a contact dirty urine, if that's even possible. Probably is. And the circulation is not that good. So I'm like, man, I really got to get a cell change to get away from this dude and all this smoke, right? So he would just be up there smoking all the time. And then he had the stuff coming from the kitchen in the kosher trays. Everybody gets on the kosher meals because it's better food in prison. So you sign up, Messianic Jewish or whatever, and you can get kosher meals. They're much better. So he had a hookup where he was getting tobacco and weed, just about every other meal he was getting deliveries and then selling it all over the wing. So I'm like, great, this guy is like a gang member. He's running the dope on my wing and I'm stuck living with the guy, right? So he would leave like a handful of weed just on the table right by the door. The officer looks in, there's a table and then the bunks. And I was like, hey, your weed's on display. Man, F that. I run these police, man. They do anything for me. He didn't even care that they're counting rounds, and they'd look down at it and they'd just shake their head and keep walking. They'd see it sitting there, they keep walking.
That's
so
amazing.
We had a strict shift on one time. I took a piece of paper, I made a tent, and I covered his weed while he was up there sleeping. He gets down. He says, what the hell are you covering up my weed for? I said, stop worrying about it so much. I said, because such and such working, and we're going to both end up with a charge. So this is the type of people you get, and you kind of stuck with them for a while until you can figure out a way to get out of there. But as far as violence, okay. So
what kind of violence you see, Bill?
I get transferred to Virginia. So they misclassify me, put me right back in Supermax again. Oh, you're starting fresh here. I said, but I was a law clerk, and your policy says I have to have this score. I have 17 points, not 36 points. And you can't score an escape after, I think it was 6 years or something. And I'm just after 5 years, and I'm just a few months over the 5-year point. So you're not even allowed to score the escape against me. And they did it anyway. They just misscored me. I had no overrides. I'm stuck there in a Supermax, and I'm writing my attorneys and, anybody that would hear me. And I'm like, hey, these guys are killing each other here. Every time you turn around, the gang members are jumping on each other. You're rarely out of the cells. If it is, it's very few at a time, or going to the chow hall. And even in that period, I'm not going to mention gang names on this here, the names of the gangs. I'm not going to give anybody any credit for what they're doing. But So they would be jumping on each other. And these people, the officers inside there, have a gun turret inside each unit. And they have a gun that shoots. The initial one, I think, is a blank. I didn't know that at first. And the next ones are the little round rubber BBs, a bunch of them in a thing. But I've seen guys get their faces ripped open with them, lose an eye, all this stuff. So they'll hit a horn, and you're required, like New York, to jump down on the floor and lay down with your forehead on the ground. Well, that's even if you're in the shower. I'm not laying down in a nasty prison shower. We came back from lunch one day. Guys are fighting, 3-4 of them. They blowing the horn. People are laying down, but my door was already open. So I ran up the stairs to make it to my cell because I didn't want to lay down on the dirty floor or risk getting shot. You're supposed to lay down the second you hear it. Ran to my cell. I made it in. Me and my cellmate made it in. They roll in the doors. We're locked in. The fight's still going on. And all you're hearing is boom, boom, boom. They're shooting these dudes, and they're bringing the attack dogs in. They're tearing the guys up. The dogs are not well trained. Gigantic shepherds or German Malinois, whatever the heck you call them. Big.
German shepherd.
Not properly trained dogs. It's horrible. And so there's blood everywhere. And I just made it to the cell. Next thing you know, I look down. There's blood all over me, and I'm like, oh my God! Just like I told everybody, I've been shot. And I'm just like drenched in blood. I'm like, I told my son, but I said, great. I said, I got hit. Where did I get hit? And he's laughing at me. I said, what the F is so funny, man? I've been dreading this, that I'm going to get shot by accident and I'm misclassified. He says, man, you didn't get shot. He says, you ran to your bunk so quick. You hit your head on my TV shelf and cut your head.
Oh,
I didn't even realize. I jumped down to get out of his way and I slit my forehead.
Yeah, you're panicking. Look at that.
Yes, and he wanted to call after the fight was over. Let me get medical care for you. I said, listen, man, where I come in Florida, they're so strict down there that they'll think we were fighting and lock us both like in a hole for another 6 months somewhere. Under investigation. So I said, let me just clean it up, and so it's like that. I've saw a lot of dogs attacking people. In Wallens Ridge, there was a lot of suicides. There was a guy, another guy who got a cellmate who was mentally ill, and he was naked in there. And the cellmate was telling staff, look, I've killed several people. I'm never getting out. He was like, I think he was a biker. He said, you need to get this guy out of my cell. He needs to be in the mental health unit. Well, the counselor at the time that we had was bringing in dope for a certain gang, and she was really corrupt, and she didn't care about anything. And if you wrote a grievance about her not helping you, you know what happens, Matt. The retaliation starts.
Right.
I got warned. If you write one more grievance on her, you're gonna get stuck, or you're gonna get jumped, or this or that. And she can't even write a grievance. She can't complain outside. And it's just so corrupt, even in the Supermax. So this one guy was begging for her to remove this mentally ill dude out of the cell. I can't remember his name at the moment, but so this is at Wallens Ridge, and she doesn't do it. She doesn't do it. They keep reporting it. And he said, look, it's getting to this point. Because the doors would open, he'd come out naked for chow, and he'd pretend he's shooting the officers up there, like with an
no.
Boom, 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 standing there naked, and they'd have to coax him back into the cell. So he clearly needed care. He was drinking out of the toilet. He was doing all kinds of weird stuff. They wouldn't move him. So the lady had an obligation to separate them and to get him mental health care in a different unit. She didn't do it. So eventually the psychiatrist and the sergeant goes to the cell, says, okay, you're having trouble with your cellmate. We need to interview him and see what's going on. Why is he coming out naked all the time? And he says, he doesn't want to talk to you now. You waited too long. He's sleeping. They said, no, wake him up. Tell him to step to the door. I said, I'm not going to do it. That's not my job. So they had to bring the whole goon squad to open the door and chain the one dude up. And then the dude's laying there dead in his bed.
Oh,
the guy beat him to death, killed him. And then his floor sponges to clean the floor. You're only allowed a sponge because it's Supermax and little rubber pens and all that. So the sponge from the floor, he crammed that down into his mouth, suffocated him after beating him to death, and had him laying in the bed 3 days dead.
Oh,
3 days.
Wow.
All the staff members were doing standing counts. They're required, I think it was 4 times a day, standing count. Like first thing in the morning, and then before you go to sleep, in the middle of the day. And, stand for count. You remember that, Matt? Stand for count. Right. So you have to stand for a lot of these counts to make sure you're alive. These officers just fly past and just see somebody there, and they think nobody's going to ever escape, so they don't do real counts. They're falsifying that they saw him on standing counts for 3 days.
Oh, boy.
All of those officers got fired and arrested for falsifying the count logs because the medical examiner said there's no way they did standing counts. He was been dead for almost 3 days, laying in his bed. So this is the kind of violence I've seen.
That's gruesome. So hopefully people watching see it's not worth it. You don't want to be doing anything because look at the type of time you're doing with the kind of people, mental health, criminals, gang members, horrible conditions. And imagine the food. You haven't talked about the food. What kind of food do they feed you guys? out there? Is it bologna sandwiches and fruit juice? Is what
In
you?
my case, in the state, just about everywhere you go is horrible. What about you, Matt?
I know the state's horrific. Federal's a little better.
Federal's better.
Federal's
you
better.
I mean, if you're being transferred, then you get bologna sandwiches and peanut butter and jelly and stuff. You're being transferred on a bus or something. But for the most part, you've got regular meals. Like, they're not great meals, but they're edible. And periodically, probably twice a week, you get a decent meal where you're like, damn, like this is almost like free world food, you know, like this is like fried chicken. Like, it's pretty hard to fuck up it's pretty hard to screw up fried chicken. You better write that down.
Yeah.
So, so it's like, you know, you might get fried chicken and, you know, macaroni and cheese. Like, it's, you know, although the macaroni and cheese was, it's like they'll take the powdered cheese and sell it in the unit. So you might get a little bit of powdered cheese in there, but you know, I'd say twice a week you get a decent meal, and the rest of the time it's like it's edible, but it's a lot of rice and beans and really badly cooked vegetables and stuff. But once again, it's not like it's horrible. It's not like you walk up and they put slop on your tray and you're like, what's that? You know, it's like
mystery meat.
You know what it is. I mean, it's, you know, and they get a lot of that processed patties, which are obviously
like spam. A lot of spam. They feed you a lot of spam and all that.
Spam wouldn't be bad. Spam's not bad, bro. Spam would be an upgrade. These are like deep fried.
Oh Lord! Oh no!
You know, patties that are, and they tell you like this is chicken. You know,
oh
like,
no!
Okay, it's chicken. You know, and it's not horrible. It's not. But keep in mind, my having been in federal prison, my expectation of food has dropped dramatically. Like I would go to a restaurant and it's basically like, give me anything on the menu. There's nothing here that's bad. And you go with somebody, they're like, I want the such and such, and can you put this on the side, and can you this, can you that? And I'm like, I'll take this one. Number 2.
It's all better than what
you're happy with number 2. You know, and Bill, but the state, the food's really bad, isn't it?
Yeah, they have a meat, a mystery meat routine, and some of the boxes would come in. It would say like not fit for human consumption. Well, why are you making it or expired? And especially in the supermaxes in Virginia, you'd go to the chow hall, and on the way there, you can't talk. You're only with the guys from your unit or from your floor even, and very few people, and the stink permeates the whole compound. It's horrendous. And then in that same place, the lady who was running the place had a local restaurant. So
I've seen that. I've heard this. They'll open a restaurant and then they'll siphon off food to their restaurant.
Exactly right. So she was taking like all the stuff, the tuna, like on the special meals, you're supposed to get, I think it was a cup of tuna and then a half a cup on another meal, something like that. And, guys would get like a tablespoonful. Like, where's all the tuna going? It comes to find out it's going to her restaurant by the box load.
She's doing those deals. Unbelievable. Now, you see this horror stories there that people sometimes with the gang, the units, sometimes they try to take other people's food because it's so hungry. You see a lot of that, guys trying to take other people's foods, and you say, I'm going to take your food, and what are you going to do about it?
No. That sounds like more like old school, maybe New York style prison where it was like really hardcore, no cammers. Then it's like, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Now there's like cameras everywhere. Everybody's telling on something. It's a different era. A lot of that's from the movies. I want to say something to the audience watching. Look, there's going to be some of you, please put comments in, by the way, and ask your questions. There's going to be some of you that say, good for you guys. You were stealing everybody's jewelry and artwork, and Matt, you were ripping everybody's, mortgages off and homes off or whatever you were doing. And good for you guys. And, Ignacio's got his law enforcement smirk on his face. Like, you guys had it rough. Good for you guys, right? Look at it this way. Here's how I look at it. When you abuse people that are completely hopeless and helpless in prison, and you do that for year after year on end, you're creating a very vicious person when they come out. Many people come out and want to hold court in the street because the conditions are so horrific and abusive and corrupt that you subject us to when you put us in prison. I'm not saying all the officers are that way. There's some very good officers and concerned staff. They're very rare, and they run them out of there. The gang members and the corrupt staff run them out of their jobs. So they don't stick around long when they're good or they're helpful or they're trying to do their job. So you're creating people that come out for the most part very, very embittered for what they went through. And this big thing about wanting to shoot it out with the police in the street, a lot of it comes from the over sentencing And a lot of it comes from the horrible conditions we have to endure. Florida prisons are brutally hot. And they keep saying it's not, but it's not unconstitutionally hot. Well, people have passed out because there's almost no circulation. And it is brutally hot and dangerously hot. People have died from heat stroke all the time in Florida prisons. So you're creating people that you don't really want to deal with. Do you want to deal with somebody who went through all that on the street, or somebody who took a bunch of programs, learned his lesson, and now he greets you with a smile? Or do you want to meet the guy who gets out pissed off and greets you with a gun?
Yeah, you want them rehabilitated where they go back to society, where it's not a repeat cycle. Where remember, we're the taxpayers who keep on paying for this. The food comes here from us, or the facilities. We want less people. We don't want to keep on building more prisons. We want more schools, less prisons. And when people have to be rehabilitated, especially for nonviolent offenders. Now, violent offenders, some of these guys, in my experience, because I kept on doing a lot of repeat violent offenders over and over, just keep on hammering these guys. They're just waiting for the next lick, right? They just can't wait to get out to do another one and another one, because they just don't want to learn. They don't want to get better. So those kind of people, I don't feel sorry for them being in those tough conditions, because they don't care about. But the ones that want change, maybe nonviolent, they want to improve themselves, then that's fine. But some of these hardened gang members, they get what they deserve. They commit atrocities. They live in those awful conditions, and that's what they are. You know, they're animals. They get treated.
A lot of what happens, though, sometimes people are misclassified to a max or even to medium.
They are,
a lot of those gang members are highly manipulative, and they're also acting as informants. A lot of like I was a law clerk for many years. I can't tell you how many people in leadership positions said, "Hey, New York," they used to call me New York. "Can you help me with my case? Because if you say anything to anybody, you know, I'll have you hurt, I'll have you this, I'll have you that, and nobody will believe you. But I cooperated, and I gave up a body. I gave up my homeboy in another state. I gave up this. I gave up that. And they reneged on their deal. What can I do to hold them to and get back to court?"
Right.
I can't even begin to tell you. And then another facility, an investigator, because I was going through some family stuff, you know, and he, you know, was just talking to another investigator about this one leader that keeps coming to him. He said, "Man, I'm sick of him coming up here telling on everybody else. We know he's the one behind it. I'm overhearing this from the other room." You know? So, you know, so the biggest leaders in the gangs are usually the CIs, and they're pointing finger at everybody else.
Well,
you know,
like I talk about my book, The Fall of Italian Mafia was based on that. What happened? Everybody started rolling on each other. You know, racketeering cases. Nobody wants to do 20, 30 years. Right. So you see Sammy the Bull on Gotti. You see all these guys. They all talk about it now. I mean, if you go see all these shows, they all talk about what they did. I mean, it's amazing. That's why I find it fascinating to hear who they rolled on. And they talk about their entire case, because now they're celebrities. And it's okay to talk about it, and there's no consequences. Right. And that's why the mafia is nothing in this country. And now the cartels, though, that they don't do, because now they're the big boy that's been going big with the street gangs, working with the street gang, because a lot of them are soldiers. And a lot of them are into the cult. They've been indoctrinated. And that's what they do believe in. And that's what they're hardcore. But even the mafia themselves, they didn't want their kids to be in the mafia. Some of them want to be doctors and lawyers, right? Mm-hmm. They wanted them out of the game, out of the system. So it kind of phased itself out. And that's why I see the difference there between those kind of factions, those kind of groups. Things change. 100 years ago was different. 100 years from now, who knows? Maybe it'll be the Russians more with other groups taking over. It could be a whole different faction coming out there. We don't know.
Matt, I want to say something. You are extremely funny when you tell your stories, man. You are really funny. I love the way you said, "I felt like a non-combatant in a war zone." You know, I can relate, because I was the law clerk who they all needed. Right. So if you're doing somebody's paperwork and somebody else does want to mess you, "Oh no, leave him alone. That's New York. He's working on my habeas or my lawsuit. Right. Or you can get me some medical care," because I knew how to do the paperwork. But plus, I have New York kind of attitude where, like, I'm not necessarily a tough guy like that, but I could see trouble coming a mile away, and you can too, and you handle it really well with that guy. I like that in the room. Yeah, sure. Let's give me your list. I'll let the counselor know where to deliver it. You know, I love that.
That could have gone, and that's, you know, like that kind of gone the other way. Like in the medium, I would have handled it probably a lot different.
Right.
But in the low, it's like, stop, bro. Nobody wants to. You know, you don't want any trouble. I don't want any trouble.
What would you have done differently in the medium, you think?
I think I would have probably gone to my cousin or a couple of the guys that I knew, and probably gone to like their shot caller. Because listen, here's the thing: in the medium, I had no money. Like I never had any money. My mother sent me $50, maybe twice in 3 years. I made money from, you know, the way I was able to get commissary or get anything was I sold certificates to my class. So I teach the real estate class. There's 35 guys there. 20 of them don't want to be there. They just want the certificate so their counselor will lower their points so they can go to another institution. So I would just say, look, you guys don't want to be here. Give me, 2 coffees and 3 creamers, and I'll fill out all your paperwork for you, and we don't have to have a conversation. Like
nothing like the inmates running the asylum, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So what happens is I end up with a complete,
this is fascinating for me though.
I end up with a complete locker full of coffee and creamer, and if I want something else, I take a creamer. It's worth $3.15, and I go over and I say, hey man, I need 2 bags of chips, and I just do that. So I'm bartering. So if somebody were to come to me in the medium and say, yo, bro, you're going to do this, I'd be like, listen, bro, come here, let me show you something. Let's go take a look at my commissary account. Click, and I'd click on it, and I'd say, now where is it you think I'm coming up with $50?
You get nothing.
I got nothing.
Right.
So if you think that the money, the $42 that I make for being a GED tutor, I'm going to give you 50 out of 42. I don't know how good you are at math, but I'm not going to do that. And I'd probably just go to my cousin or one of my buddies and I'd explain the situation. They go talk to a shot caller, and then that guy would come back and say, leave that dude alone. He's teaching the real estate class. He's helping out. And I had enough guys in my real estate class. I could have just gone straight to them and said, look, bro, this is what's happening. And they go, whoa, don't even worry about that, bro. They'd go talk to that guy and say, what are you doing, man? I take this guy's class.
Interesting. Just like life there. And you said cousin. Is that a term, or was he really your cousin?
No, I really had a cousin. And I listen, this is the difference between Hispanic. This is the difference between the black culture and Hispanic culture for the most part, and white culture. I had a cousin in federal prison and I never knew it. What? Because in the white culture, right, in middle class America, you're humiliated if you have a family member who's in prison. It's embarrassing. So, but if in the black culture, most black families have 2 or 3 of their relatives that have gone in and out of prison. So what they do is they visit them, they put money on their books, like they support him. In the white culture, you know what they do? They don't talk about you. They don't send you money. You're an embarrassment. Yep. So the people that came to see me were 1 or 2 childhood friends and my mother. My brothers and sisters were embarrassed that they didn't want to talk about it. They didn't want to tell their friends. They were humiliated that there were TV programs that their brother was incarcerated. It's humiliating.
I think also in your background, if you're a person who grew up very religious Catholic, if that happens, I think it's also the same applies, because you didn't live up to the standards you were supposed to. Right. Look what you became. I think it's also about your religion also, and how you grew up.
I went to private Catholic schools all my life. When I was a kid, I was an altar boy, and look how horrible I turned out. A lot of Catholic boys turned out to be criminals.
Right.
But typically those your family members don't line up to support you in federal prison.
No.
Or in prison, because they're embarrassed.
They're embarrassed. That's my point. Right. I think it's also how you were raised in religion. I think if maybe different scenario, maybe different people support. I think it could also be religious, maybe ethnic too in there. All depends, because different Hispanic groups are very different. I mean, obviously Spanish Cubans are very different than Mexicans and other groups. So it depends on the culture and the person and the circumstances, if they will support you or not. But again, yours was a white collar, but you did a lot of things to it. I think violent, forget it. If you were like forget if you're a killer, or if you're, I think most people's like, man, this person did what? Heinous crimes? Yeah, I'm done with that person. Forget that.
Those guys get all the women right into them. That's called hybristophilia, obsession with violent criminals.
They're sick. They're sick people.
So here's what happened. All right, so back to the original question. So here's what happened is that I'm in prison, and I call my mother because I hadn't talked to my mother in weeks. I was in the U.S. Marshals holdover. So I call my mother as soon as I get to the medium. And, you when you first come in to intake, you have to talk to medical, you have to talk to SIS, you have to talk to, to education, to various departments have to have a conversation with you. So they all come in and they're talking to me, and my counselor comes in and says, listen, what's going on? I said, look, man, I haven't talked to my mom in 2 weeks. She doesn't know where I am. Can I call her? And they said, sure. So I called her and I said, hey mom, I'm at Coleman. And she goes, where are you? Are you at the medium, the low, or the prison or the pen? The fuck does I'm sorry.
4.
Like how does my mother, how does my mother know Do you see what I'm saying? Like my mother knows. Like I don't know anything about Coleman. I'm like, what? I'm like, I'm at the medium, and she's like, you need to look up your cousin Reese. I'm like, cousin Reese? I've never heard of a cousin Reese. So my brother-in-law.
Look at that.
My brother-in-law has a cousin. She has your brother-in-law. So here's Jack, your brother-in-law, Jack. She has Jack has a cousin named Reese. He is in the medium. He is the head of their of like the recreation department or whatever. He's the head of the such and such. He fixes all the equipment there. You need to look him up.
Sure.
And I said, okay. So I didn't know how to look him up. I didn't know what the call out sheet was. I didn't know how to do that. I asked one or two people and they were like, what is he, a white guy? I was like, yeah. They were like, okay, well, there's like maybe 15 of them on the compound. So you're going to figure it out.
You'll find out.
Right. So probably 2 days later, I'm sitting there in my cell and this white guy comes walking in and he goes, Matt? And I was, yeah. Hey, what's up? He goes, I'm your cousin Reese. How you doing? Now, Reese has been locked up for on and off for the last 30 years for methamphetamine.
Oh, poor guy.
So he's like, I'm your cousin Reese. What's going on? I said, oh my God. I go, well, you're my cousin, but not by blood. He said, no, you got lucky there. And he said, come by my place tonight. And I got a whole little package for you. Like, I don't even know what a package. What are you talking about? Like he's got a lock. He's got all these things that, the shower slides.
Care package.
Care package. He gives me a whole care package.
Oh, care package. Gotcha.
Right. And so, yeah, probably within a month or so, I was teaching the real estate class.
Ignacio thought you were going to say a package of meth to sling for him.
Yeah, he's smuggling. I got some. No. So, is he still there? Or is he out? Your cousin?
No, he's out. He calls me periodically,
okay.
And like he doesn't like he's a mess.
Oh,
he's a mess. I'd love to get him on the channel though, because he is absolutely hilarious.
Is he really? I bet he has some great stories.
So this
can
is
they
a guy
podcast from federal prison. Can they do him? Because I'll interview him if you're not allowed to.
He's out.
No, he said he's out.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's out. But what I'm saying is that this is a guy that, had it not been for meth, would probably be teaching at a university as a professor. He is absolutely brilliant. He can tell you, not only can he tell you the dates, how many people were throughout every battle in World War II. He can tell you the dates, the amount of equipment that they used, how many, who manufactured the different tanks, when, how many of those tanks there were, how many casualties there were, what the battle plan. He can tell you every single thing about World War II. It is insanity how sharp this guy is. But he does.
Did he learn that in prison, or did he just know that? How did he get that knowledge?
He would have people order him books on the outside, and he had tons of books for they literally, you could donate books. Like the prison doesn't buy books. They're all donated by inmates. So there was an entire probably like a whole stack of books, like a shelf, probably 130 books that made up probably 4 or 5 shelves of a stack in the library that were all World War II books that he had read and memorized. And it's so funny. He could tell you the difference between, like, he could explain to you now, so-and-so, who's this historian, says that during the battle for Britain, this is what happened. Now, so-and-so, these two say that this is what happened. Now, what I think's going on here is that he'd have a whole 45-minute discussion about how there was a slight deviation on how close the Nazis were, or Germany was, to actually winning the Battle of Britain, and why that was, and how close the RFA was to being out of planes, and how quickly they could rebuild the planes and the airfields, and what
sounds like a savant of war. And
man, he's a Rain Man. 5 minutes to Wapner.
This guy was amazing.
He should do his own podcast show, man. You should hook him up and set him up.
Listen, and if I thought he could maintain stability long enough to do that, he would be great.
Yeah.
At
least get him on one of your shows, man. I would love to hear him.
I would love to. By the way, for the past 2 years, he's supposed to have stopped by.
What's
There's
that?
another great show out there, and it reminded me of some of our conversation as far as prison experiences. You know, Chad Marks, Blood on the Razor Wire, right? You guys know
Right.
that show?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I heard it.
Yeah, I've been on there. He's got a crazy good growing show. He used to write articles for Prison Legal News, and he was one of the first people to win a compassionate release petition for federal prisoners. He's out now. He does paralegal. So shout out to Chad.
Good
You
deal.
guys would be good fit for his show too. I think
I've
you
already
might.
done a show.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you have. I wasn't sure if Ignacio did.
No, I haven't. If you want to hear my side, I'd be more than happy to. Yeah, fascinating story. I think that's what we wanted people to hear. I mean, not everybody gets to hear it inside different levels, state and federal prisons. I had a little taste of Coleman for the training and interviews, but it's not like someone who's been there for 13 years, and you have to actually live it, both medium. You didn't do the pen, but you did medium and low.
I spent a little time in the pen.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. So what happened was I went to the shoe in the low, and they were rebuilding the low shoe, so they housed those guys in the medium, but it was full. So I went to the shoe in the pen for one day, and then they put me back. They released me back to Coleman. So I did do a day in the shoe in the pen. So I can say I did a little time in the pen.
You did a little time in the pen. There we go. And Bill did a lot of time in the Supermax. He can tell his stories in there.
Bill, listen. When they were walking me to the pen, when they're driving me to the pen, I'm like, well, this isn't good. Yeah. I'm like, there's no manicured lawns here. And I'm like making these comments, and the cops are like, it's just a prison. I'm like, yeah, that's easy to say from your side of the fence.
Right.
And then we get in the shoe, and as they're walking me to my cell, I'm looking at the guys. Like, these are guys with their whole face is tattooed.
Yep.
They've got their wreck. Their wreck is a normal shoe wreck. But they literally, it's something like, it's got like 15 or 20 cages. So each guy has a little,
the dog cages, you call them. Yep.
They're like 4 foot by 8 foot, and they're just walking back and forth, and their whole faces are tattooed. And I'm looking at these guys going, oh my God. And as they're walking me, and they said, okay, Cox, your cell's right up here. I look at the cop at the CO, and I go, bro, you can't put me in with one of these guys. The cop goes, he starts laughing, and he goes, no, cop, no, you're gonna be in your own cell. Don't worry. He said, you'll be fine. He goes, I got a bunch of books for you. I put the books up here.
Wow.
He treats me like I'm a baby. It's gonna be okay. Nobody's gonna come in with you. You have your own cell. I got you some books. I've got your little cleaning supplies. Don't drink the Ajax. And I go, do people drink that? He goes, you'd be shocked. And I'm there for 24. They stop like every hour. They'd stop and knock and be like, Cox. And I'd be like, yeah, what's up? They go, you okay? Yeah, I'm okay.
Yeah, because you're not supposed to be there, and you're only there because they're full, and you're like, man, I didn't do anything. Man, you think I just did mortgage fraud, man? How do I end up with these gangsters?
You know what
happened? White boy in cell 10.
You can go to the shoe for nothing. Like, you could go to the shoe because some guy said, hey, there's this guy that's leaving in a couple days, right? He's got a problem with Cox. I heard he's going to smash him before he leaves. Lock them both up. They lock us both up. It's like, what are you talking about? I didn't do nothing because some asshole because some jerk off mentioned my name. I have to go to the shoe. That's the kind of thing that happens. Like, I've been to the shoe 3 or 4 times. I never did anything.
You know what's crazy? Exactly what you said. They can make a false allegation and get you put in lockup under investigation or suicide watch even. And usually the ones who do it are the gang members. When the corrupt staff members working, they'll go, the corrupt gang members will tell the corrupt staff member that, so they can justify it. And here's what they do. They'll take you out in handcuffs, and then the same gang member will say, you want me to go pack up his stuff? Sure, go ahead. And then nothing follows you. Every last thing gets stolen.
Yeah.
It's a scam to get all your stuff.
But another reason not to get in trouble, not to live that lifestyle, because you never know where you're going to end up and who's going to be your neighbor.
That's never happened to me, but I've seen it happen to other ones. And I can relate to what you said about getting somewhere you don't feel like you belong. That happened in New York. First time I go to prison, I was, in my 20s. I got qualified for SHOCK program, which is like almost like a boot camp. So, okay, they put it on my ticket on my bag. I'm going to Downstate Reception Center, and I'm telling everyone I'm going to SHOCK. It was on my thing. I leave Downstate after the haircut and the photograph and the processing, and we pull up to several prisons, letting guys off. We get to mine, and it's Comstock. And I look out as we're pulling in. I'm thinking, I feel sorry for the guys going to this place. I'll put some images up. So it's got, big, it looks like a medieval castle. It's a walled prison, which I don't even think they legally can build walled prisons anymore. So it's a
Wow.
walled prison. It's been up since God knows when, 1800s probably. And we go in, and they call my name. William Steele, step up, and they marched about 4 of us off. And I'm like, wait a minute, my bag says shock on it. What are you taking me off here for? Get out of here. They'll basically, in those days, they'll kick your ass if you don't get off the bus,
You
So,
better
you don't
listen.
want to also show fear because you want a lot of guys that'll play on that. But I wasn't afraid. I was deeply concerned, though. And I was like, are you sure? My bag says shock. Well, your paperwork says Comstock. I get off, and man, this place here, every other day there was like stabbings and murders. I stayed there a few months. I finally got properly reclassified back to a medium.
It took you a while.
But Comstock was atrocious back in it was the late 80s. It was horrible.
And where's this at, Bill?
That was in Comstock was in Great Meadow, New York, upstate New York.
Oh, New York. In New York, yeah. They have some real good ones out there. Oh, we lost somebody there.
Okay, 145.20. Lost Matt. 145.20. Lost Matt. I don't know what to do to bring him back on.
He has your link, right?
Yeah, can he just use it again?
I imagine.
I'm going to try to call him real quick.
Must have hit the wrong button.
F-bomb. I got to take it out of like 15 places.
Hello?
What happened?
Hey. Hello?
I'm here. What's up?
Yeah, I don't know what just happened. I'm going to...
Try again.
Can you use the same link?
Yeah, I can use the same link, of course.
Okay.
Then try it.
Flare. I have a big flare of light in the middle of my screen. Do you see that?
It looks like a solar eclipse. Yeah.
Is too much light in my room or something? What the hell's going on? Was that on when I was talking?
No, that just came on.
It's probably because I have.
Yeah.
All right, I see you there. So I guess I
Bring
just
him
bring
in.
you right back on.
We lost you there, Matt. Yep, we lost him again. There he is.
Oh.
Are you trying to move me?
No, I think it just happened when I brought you back on.
What? No, all you have to do is grab me, take the mouse and click it and drag me over to where Ignacio is, and it'll switch us.
You're asking too much there, Matt.
Well,
I'll probably lose everybody.
No, you're not going to take it. Put the mouse on my screen. You'll see it'll turn into a hand.
Oh, no. It says end display name. What do I do?
Okay.
Don't do that.
Get off of that. Get on my face. Put it on my forehead.
Okay.
And push down. You click on it and drag it.
It's not dragging, Matt.
All right. Well, we'll just do it this way. We just did a little different now.
Okay. That's fine.
It might make the editing difficult on your end.
I think this would be a good segment to keep in there too for the show. Pretty good.
So hey, I have a question for you. So do this. Bill.
Yes.
So do you see the different things at the bottom? The different formats?
The different layouts of the screen. Yeah. The
Yes.
single, double. That's weird. And then the one that
Have you tried clicking on those?
Okay. Try.
Try clicking. Okay, that's one. Click on the other. Click on another one. This is a much better layout, especially for TikToks.
We can finish it up here. I know where we left off before. What were we talking about when you?
Well, we're wrapping up prison stories.
You can switch it back to the other one. I'm just saying, in the future, you might want to do it.
Good.
You might want to do it like this. I don't know. Do you see what I'm saying?
But go back to the other one, Bill.
Where was I? This one.
That's fine.
That's
fine right there.
Yeah.
Then there's a down arrow. What's that all about?
Well, I don't.
Be careful.
Yeah, be careful. That you've got it back this far. Let's just wrap it up.
Let's just wrap it up here.
Let's talk about our books. We got to talk about our books and whatever.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Let's talk about projects. What's coming up here? We interesting prison stories. I think that was fascinating, especially from my end. I'm the only one being interviewed, so I kind of really liked hearing you guys tell your story, Matt. I never heard some of those other stories, which were pretty neat. And Bill, forget the Supermax, man. Those just lesson learned. Don't do bad. Don't do the crime if you don't want to do the time, right?
Let me get a timestamp where I'm starting back up, actually. So
All right. Well, you should keep the other party. It was pretty funny trying to figure out changing the screens. I think people will like that. Appreciate the nuances and technology. I think people like
getting
this.
out of prison don't know what the hell they're doing.
Well, you have to play with it, you know.
Yeah, you got practice. Practice makes perfect.
That's what she
said. I think that one's gonna get you banned.
Yeah, I'm not gonna leave that in.
No, don't leave that one in.
So I'm at 149. I'm gonna start again at 150. So minute 50. Start again. Hang on. So we're just gonna.
I'll go around the horn, and then I'll tell you some of the projects I'm working on. All right, Matt. So what do you got going on, Matt? What other projects going on?
Hold on. I gotta hold on. Okay, what'd you say, Ignacio? Let's get back into this other.
Yeah, let's get about Matt. What other projects you got going on? There's interesting stories we just heard here. Let's just see what you guys got out. Everybody's gotten out now, and what's going on with your lives?
I mean, I'm basically. Jesus, excuse me. I mean, I'm doing YouTube. I'm doing my YouTube. You know, I just came back from CrimeCon, and I'm just doing YouTube videos, and you know, my channel's is paying all my bills, and I do speaking engagements, and you know, I'd like to try and start working on some writing projects. I've done I have a buddy helping me with research, but I need to get back into writing some projects, doing some writing projects. And that's basically where I'm at. Like, I mean, things are good. Things are going good.
You have a book out originally. I know that.
Yeah.
Well, I've got several books. I have my memoir, which is Shark in the Housing Pool. And then I have like 5 or 6 other books. And
I popped it up on the screen. Can you guys see it?
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we're going to do is put the links in the description. Everybody, you're more than welcome to check out Matt's book, my books, Ignacio's books. And then I'm going to hit another button here. And now we got the side-by-side thing going on, and that thing going on.
That's a good one.
Go. All right. So what kind of topics are you going to write on? Are you going to continue with true crime like we're doing?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love true crime. I've only written one nonfiction book since when I was in prison. I wrote a very quick book called Stranger Danger, and it was kind of written like Chuck Palahniuk writes his books, like Fight Club and Monster. He wrote a bunch of books, Choke. And so I wrote it kind of like his, and it's not very long. It's probably, I don't know, 100 pages, 150. But, Fight Club was only like 150 pages or something. So it's about the same size. It's maybe 40 or 50,000 words, but super fun book. And like I put that up. No, it's not selling. Like I never mention it. But everything else I do is just true crime. I'm really only interested in true crime.
Yeah, I think when I did your show before, you mentioned something about when you're in prison, there was a couple of guys that were willing to sit with you and get interviewed to write a book. Was that you telling me that? Or that might have been Chad.
There was tons of guys. Like I've written almost 24 different stories about other criminals, and I've written about 8 different true crime books.
Really? Nice. Okay. So, another prolific author here is Ignacio from a
different perspective. 76 and counting on Amazon, and I'm impressed. I know Matt has some Audible too, right, Matt? Some of your books on Audible with Sean Milo. Same with me. I met him through you. Shout out to Sean, the most dangerous crime syndicates of our time. It's doing really well. It's pretty much a breakdown. This is a long one. This is over a 7-hour listen, and this is pretty much that. There it is, right there, and that's one of huge busts with the cartels right there in the United States. Look at all that money, right? That's what makes it all go around with the cartels, with the mafia, the 1%ers, Yakuza, all the international crime syndicates you can imagine. All their short stories are put together, and it's doing pretty good. It's top 70 organized crime from Audible, less than a week, and I'm almost, for me at least, over 20-something. So it's cooking pretty fast. Every day is doing really good. So I feel Audible is really good way to go once you get the books going. And if you're an author out there watching, and you want to get your books out and you can't get a publisher, get on board, self-publish. I'm a big fan of Kindle, Amazon. Right. Self-publish, get it out, get away from the gatekeepers, get your product there, market it yourself. I do everything from A to Z, and I've had already over, I think, 3,000 books already downloaded, over 3,000 in a year and a half. For somebody just my level, that's fantastic. And then it's opened up to podcasts, all these shows, meeting you guys. And then I've written the screenplay, and now have 3 production companies looking at my screenplay to make it into that. And also, I can tell you guys, I was interviewed yesterday by History Channel, and I'm going to be part of a new show called Gangland Chronicles, and I'll be talking on that show. So I'll be on that with History Channel.
And this is your ATF undercover book that I actually had an audio book of. You blessed me with that to get familiar with it. And
Matt, you listened to it too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
An incredible look into the inner workings of ATF. I mean, he tells it from all sides. He doesn't pull punches, even with some internal improprieties and corruption and all that. So that's a great book there.
The good, the bad, and the ugly of ATF. Talk about it all. Waste, fraud, and abuse. Talk about the good things, the bad things. I don't like I said, I don't pull punches, and I think that's the way it should be. People, you've got to be fair and just, and what's good's good, what's bad's bad. And I see it like that. That's the life I've tried to live, and I hope people copy that life. And you should be able to look yourself in the mirror at the end and say, I'm happy the life I've lived. And that's the lessons I've always tried to teach people.
Right. So in my case, my first book was written with my co-author, who was the editor of the National Enquirer, a good friend of mine, Gary Greenberg. And that's came out, Sex and the Serial Killer, My Bizarre Times with Robert Durst. He's the wealthiest serial killer in American history. He killed a lot of people. I knew this guy in New York years ago, wrote a book about him. HBO did the Jinx. Now, if you look at the top, the gold bar there, Nancy Grace put my book on her podcast while I was incarcerated. So just before I got out of prison, it blew up. I've been in the National Enquirer several times, New York Post. And then my show, Inmate to Roommate on A&E, we have like 12 million views on TikTok alone. That show blew up to be one of the top reality shows in the country, and about my experiences getting out of prison. So check out Inmate to Roommate. Yeah, this book, they allowed it to be featured on that show, and my sales like exploded during that airing of the show. Second one I put out, I knew for a brief time, Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein, only because I was very actively doing illegal things in Palm Beach. So I put out a book about her, Ghislaine, sensational and impure, and there's a bunch of insider stuff there about my experiences with her. And I have two other books coming out. One is a more full-blown autobiography about my life, and sort of like your ATF undercover, extensive, where you're swimming with the sharks and all that in a housing pool. I'll get it right, Matt.
Swimming with the sharks. I like that one.
Yeah. So let me get it right for him right here. How's that?
Shark in the housing pool. There you go.
There you go. So my book, my autobiography is coming out soon. And I'm also doing like a faith-based, more like for a Christian audience about, I'm not perfect, but I am a Christian. I don't hide my faith. And how I believe that God and all these stupid things I got involved with, all the times I could have been killed doing crime after crime and associating with very dangerous people on the street, from traffickers in Florida to mobsters in New York. I could have been killed because I had skills. I was a locksmith and alarm technician. A lot of guys wanted to use me to do stuff, and I would never take partners because I knew if there was a lot of money in front of a lot of these guys, I probably wouldn't survive. I'd be dead. And so I'm writing about all those experiences.
Wow.
And then another book I'm putting out about how families and new prisoners and people in jail can better navigate the system, written by somebody who was a former law clerk with a bunch of resources in it. So that resource book's coming out soon as well. And, we're also putting together a screenplay for a drama series about my life and a movie. So we'll see how that goes. Imagine Goodfellas meets Breaking Bad meets, I don't know. We always hope that our stuff's going to track like those shows did, I guess. But,
nice.
And I do, crime prevention now. I give people advice on crime prevention. We work with people who are wrongfully incarcerated, wrongfully convicted, try to help them get out. And so I'm doing a lot of things. And I have a TV show, Steal the Spotlight, a lot of things since I got out of prison. My holdup, I have the energy to do it all. I have the drive, the passion. I lost a lot of years in prison, as you guys know, as Matt as you did too. My passion and my drive is like relentless. I could sit here all day long doing interviews. Everybody wants to be on my show, and a lot of people invite me to their shows. My biggest holdup has been technology, and I think, Matt, you told me don't worry about the editing, just put out the long form and then work, deal with it later. So I'm taking some of your advice and not doing as much editing, but the technology has been the thing that's set me back. Other than that, I just feel blessed, and I like to use my platform to help people. I'm glad to have met people like you. So that's where I'm at after I got out of prison. So, guys, you have anything else to add? And you want to share?
That's excellent, man. It was a good show. I think we all went a little, maybe around 2 hours, maybe a little less, depending on the editing and what happens. But it's fun. First time we did three of us here. We've all done shows together, and the three of us, I think, was pretty funny. I think you guys are going to like it. Interesting, fascinating look inside the prison system in the United States. Two guys that have lived it many years, done it, and then my perspective on the outside in law enforcement, how we see it and how they lived it. And then, of course, our projects now, two successful people who've gone out, didn't get back in jail, didn't go back in the system. They're living their lives, which is good. So a good example for those who are watching, scratching their heads, what to do. I think podcasts are a good way to get your message out and talk to people. And it's been positive. I never would have dealt with these two guys, I'll be honest with you. If it wasn't for podcasts, it wouldn't have happened. But in this realm, it can work. So I've met guys like, unbelievable backgrounds. So it's interesting life, that's for sure.
Matt?
I'm good.
That's good. We're all ready to take a break. We've been sitting down a long time, commiserating. Thank you for joining again. Check out Steele Spotlight Television. If you want to be on my show, look me up, official William Steele at iCloud. I'll put that on the screen. All our book links are in the description and on Amazon. And again, two of us have turned our life around. The one who's retired and trying to, and just amused by it all and trying to keep an eye on our progress is sitting in the middle. So he's career law enforcement. So imagine this trio. So take care, guys. Thank you for joining, man.
And this will be on Saturday night, right, Bill? Saturday night?
Yeah, I don't think I'll put it up as a live. I think I'm going to put it up as a regular show because we've been getting glitchy with that. So maybe Matt can give me an idea about how to do it that way, because we try to stream it to all the platforms and all of a sudden it just locked up and it put a frozen image up. So, yep.
All right, guys.
Thank you for joining. Thank you, everybody. You know how to like and subscribe. That helps me out. That helps these guys out. Check out Inside True Crime and Ignacio's books.
All right.
Nice day.
See ya.
All right.